Does anyone else have a lot of weird experiences that have made it so that you feel like it's very hard for you to even communicate in the world because so many things that have happened to you or around you are just strange? And you feel like, if I talk about this, I know people are going to say I'm crazy. So then you just don't. And then over a period of years, you find yourself holding yourself back. And then that becomes sort of who you are. But you kind of don't realize as it's happening how quiet you've become. And then one day it really starts hitting you that you're struggling to even speak about anything at all. And then you notice that the rest of the world also seems to be sort of dealing with this, except for some of the very loud, obnoxious ones. And I'm sorry if you're one of them, if you're comfortable speaking and with your voice, then that is amazing. I hope to someday get back to that place myself. But life just has a way of beating you down. You go through loss and struggle with tragedy and confusion, and there's not enough time to deal with your feelings, and then what happens? Somebody tells you you're not moving on fast enough, and then if you move on really fast, then they say you didn't grieve well enough or you didn't do it right. And you just realize how judgmental people are, so judgmental. It's difficult. So I'm just kind of wondering if other people kind of deal with that too. And how do you deal with it? Because I guess my intention right now is to just take a moment here and try to get myself comfortable with the idea of speaking to no one. It is a weird concept. I've tried to do it before, but trying to speak to somebody when there's nobody there. But at the same time, knowing, you've seen a ghost or had a weird dream and it feels all too real. But the disagreement about that even, it's like everything on this planet sometimes feels like it's designed for you to not trust your own intuition, to wait for someone else to try to tell you what you think and what your intuition is. And then you try to assert yourself, your opinion, your ideas, and somebody's like immediately arguing with it. And you're like, I wasn't here for an argument. I wasn't trying to argue. I just wanted to say what I thought. Seems like I'm seeing a lot of that and experiencing that myself. And then it's even like gaslighting people out of their own experiences, like it's not even real. And if it is, that they shouldn't talk about it because it makes someone else uncomfortable. And I'm kind of wondering how right now did I get myself to being this person? Because I know back in the day I would have told you right off. I would have felt bad about it because I do not like to hurt anyone's feelings, but I would have said my piece. But there's been some sort of mental social conditioning ever since 2020. And I think it's very obvious when you look back on it. Because they were gaslighting everybody about the medical establishment and what was true. And it's like, if you had an intuition at all that you could rely on, or that you're in tune with, you knew something was very wrong. And then everybody was kind of like falling into some of the worst social states and treatment of each other, going along with things that were cruel and not right. There are things that I saw on Twitter that I will never be able to erase from my mind. And I try not to ever think of. It was like such an affront to everyone if you weren't doing exactly what they wanted you to do. There's so much gaslighting and manipulation. And then also, I think that we just have this collective trauma from every single thing that keeps happening, where we're told to just keep moving on, keep moving, which I get, that's evolution. You need to keep moving or you're not going to evolve. But sometimes it feels like devolving. The behavior that people are acting like is normal and better, and I disagree. I think a lot of what people are doing is just completely backward. I don't think it's in everyone's best interest or anyone's. I'm not even saying specifically what that is. I'm just rambling now at this point. But this is years of built up tension that I need to just release. I need to say it. So I'm doing that today in a small way, trying to gently do it as I dip my toe into the water. And I know that this first part's going to be kind of rocky. But I'm doing it. I'm at least trying. That's all I can do right now. Because something has happened that's been buried deep that I need to deal with. And I know it's not just me. I know it is a collective issue. And over these last few years, I see how much this energy is coming after people's throats. Either silencing them with algorithms, making them fear what they say, attacking their ad revenue streams, making people in fear of what they say, rewriting words that we use, words that we have always been using to define acts, things that people do, words that are normal, defining language, English language, that people are now self-censoring. And I'm like, what is even the point of this? Because let's say, I'm just going to use the word, for example, let's say that you talk about suicide, which I should be able to talk about because I have people in my life that I have lost because of that, or people that have attempted it. And now we're at a point where people are afraid to say that word because it's going to trigger somebody. And it's like, we cannot do that. You cannot be afraid of the word. You can't do anything about it if you can't define it. Everybody knows this. It's the same thing with children. You don't just not teach them things because you are afraid that they'll say them. They need to be informed so that if something ever happens to them, they can tell someone the truth. And I feel kind of like that's what we're in right now. Something is so horrible to look at that we've all gone through. And we're forced to move on from. We're gaslit about our experiences. And to where now, if you have something to say about that, you see people out here being afraid. They're making up words for the same thing they've already been trying to talk about. And okay, this is going to become the new word then. Then what, are you going to start censoring on that word too? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I really have conscious streams of thought that can go on and on. One thing connects to another. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Because as I said, there's just so much to say. But I'll be back another time. I'm just going to go ahead and end this. And I really appreciate if anybody was able to listen, and hope that people can have patience as I learn to work my way through this experience, because it's not comfortable. But it's going to help. And that's what I have to keep remembering, that this will help. So that's why I'm doing it. And I will find my way through the path. Like right now, I'm on a path that's filled with thorny bushes and creatures coming out, and it's kind of crazy. But I'll get there. I will make it to my destination. So, anyway, thank you for listening. Bye.